Okay, so here's a question. Is the pressure that was placed on Claudine Gay to resign reflective of what so many DEI experts and academics say is a common experience that Black women face when they're in positions of power? Now, Claudine Gay was under intense scrutiny after her testimony before Congress, where her comments about anti-Semitism on campus was met with this sense of not really being reflective of what students were experiencing. And asked point blank as calling for the genocide of Jews a violation of Harvard's code of conduct, Claudine Gay said it depends on the context. Now, certainly it very well may depend on the context, and maybe it isn't in itself a violation of the code of conduct, but given the fact that there was anti-Semitic actions happening on campus, some people expected a little bit more sensitivity from the president in that moment. But fast forward to mid-December, and new allegations of plagiarism started to plague Claudine Gay. Conservative writer Christopher Rufo found Claudine Gay's PhD thesis and pointed out 7 or 8 examples in her thesis where she lifted verbatim words from other authors' work. I'll post a link below to Christopher Rufo's Substack where you can read the entire article, including the citations. But Christopher Rufo was quite specific in targeting Claudine Gay. He had an entire strategy planned to remove Claudine Gay from presidency. On December 19th, he posts on X his plan to smuggle the plagiarism story into the media apparatus from the left, which legitimizes the narrative to center-left actors who have the power to topple Gay. So he actually explains the strategy. You see, initially, he posts the story of Claudine Gay's plagiarism on December 10th. It drove approximately 100 million impressions on Twitter. It was the top story for a number of weeks, but it was being ignored by mainstream media and left-of-center, left-wing media. So in his words, I knew that in order to achieve my objective, we had to get the narrative into the left-wing media. But the left-wing media uniformly ignored the story for 10 days and tried to bury it. So I engaged in a kind of thoughtful and substantive campaign of shaming and bullying my colleagues on the left to take seriously the story of the most significant academic corruption scandal in Harvard's history. Within 24 hours, the news broke. The shaming strategy that Rufo deployed worked. CNN, BBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, they all started exposing Gay's plagiarism. And then on top of that, there were more and more op-ed pieces that were being written calling on Gay to resign. Rufo's strategy worked magically. Parallel to this, Bill Ackman, one of the top donors to Harvard, posts a 4,000-word essay on some of the limitations of diversity, equity, inclusion, and just an overall criticism of DEI as a whole. Ackman writes, having a darker skin color, a less common sexual identity, and or being a woman doesn't make one necessarily oppressed or even disadvantaged. Now, this is interesting because what both Christopher Rufo is doing as well as Bill Ackman may actually be playing into what so many DEI experts and academics say happens for women, Black women in particular, when they get into positions of authority. There's racialized undermining of credibility, there's a pressure to prove competence, increased pressure to prove competence, and there's just an overall challenge to their authority and their expertise. As well, there are authors that point to intersectionality, that it's not enough that she's Black, but she's also a woman, and those combinations point to unique forms of discrimination that they fit that aren't necessarily shared by just being Black and just being a woman. Now, this is not to say at all that Claudine Gay did not plagiarize in her PhD thesis. This is not to say at all that her comments about anti-Semitism on campus weren't exactly the best. But it is to say that Claudine Gay's work is under an intense microscope, in fact, very reflective of what DEI experts and academics have said. There is this intense scrutiny on Claudine Gay on the basis, perhaps, of her being Black and female. And I say this because Christopher Rufo on his Substack has not provided that level of scrutiny to the other presidents that were also testifying before Congress alongside Claudine Gay, who happened to be white. Ibram X. Kendi has this massive Twitter meltdown after Claudine Gay announces her resignation. But he also says this: the plagiarism allegations came not from her academic peers, but her political foes, led by conservatives who sought to oust Gay and put her career under intense scrutiny in hopes of finding a fatal flaw. Now, I'm going to leave links below to some of that literature and experiences that Black female leaders have in positions of authority. But I want to know from you, do you think what Christopher Rufo did, in parallel as well with Bill Ackman's DEI essay on X, proves what DEI experts and academics are saying as the Black female experience in leadership positions. If Claudine Gay were white, an old white man, would he be under that type of scrutiny? It's one of those circular arguments, yes, and it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but this is the conversation that I think we should be having. It's not to dispute Claudine Gay's plagiarism nor her testimony before Congress, but it is to raise the point that her work is under more intense scrutiny on the basis perhaps of her being Black and female than if she was an old white man. And I say this as someone who's quite critical of DEI as a whole, but in this moment I actually see what happened to Claudine Gay as an actual reflection of what so many DEI academics have said and highlighted as the unique experience of Black female leaders. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know these are tough conversations, but I'd love to know what you think.